Hi, good evening and good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. Welcome to the workshop on Kickstart Your Career in FP&A. So within the span of next 60 to 75 minutes, we'll try and cover as much ground as possible about FP&A. We'll try and cover some concepts, give you some tips and techniques about how you can get a breakthrough in your career in FP&A and why FP&A is important today, and how um, how you can pivot your career if you're still not into FP&As, and how you can pivot your career into FP&A. So we'll talk about some of the tips and techniques today. So welcome to the session. Just I would say just trust us for the next 60 minutes. We have structured it in such a way that you will have a fair understanding of what FP&A is. So hold your questions. We will have Q&A in the end, and we'll solve all your doubts, and we'll take all your questions in the end as well. So just stay with us, focus on what we are trying to share, and hopefully we'll cover a lot of ground in the next 60 minutes or so. Yeah. So first of all, thank you for your trust. There are so many online sessions going on today, and so you have taken out your valuable 60 minutes to spend time with us. So thank you for your trust. Pat yourselves on the back for taking action. I have interacted with so many people who want to work in FP&A, but when I ask them their efforts as to what do you understand about FP&A, have you gone through any videos, have you gone through any training programs, absolutely zero effort. People think that they can just get FP&A role like that, so which is absolutely not possible. The very fact that you have taken that first step to come and invest 60 minutes, that itself is a good way to take action. So pat yourselves on the back for taking action, and make sure you stay through till the end of the program to maximize your learning from this. So let's begin with a quick poll. Type in the chat box, how would you rate yourself, or how much would you rate yourself on FP&A on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay, 10 being the best, okay, and 1 being beginner or not aware of what FP&A is. So how would you rate yourself about your understanding of FP&A on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay, please type your responses in the chat box. Okay, 2, 5, 1, 5, 1, 1, 1, 6, okay, 1. Okay, so the range that I normally see is somewhere between 1 to 6. So beginner, and maybe one or two of you might have seen or may have worked on some elements of FP&A, right? And don't worry, we will cover a lot of ground, and you will have a full understanding of what FP&A is, right? Of course, we can't make you a budgeting expert in 60 minutes or a forecasting expert in 60 minutes, but this is a good starting point where you'll have the understanding of what happens in an FP&A role. So that's the objective today. So what will be covered today? So we'll start by understanding what is FP&A. We'll dive into some of the key traits that are required to become successful at FP&A. How does a typical FP&A month look like? Whenever I talk to people about FP&A and I ask them, what do you think people in FP&A do? They just say budgeting and forecasting. But will we be doing budgeting and forecasting for the whole year? That's not true. So what do we normally get busy with, right? So a typical FP&A month, we'll explain that to you. And then I'll share with you a quick career framework as to how, if you're starting in FP&A, then how should you start and where should you start? So that's what we'll talk in FP&A career framework. Cool. A lot of ground to cover. So stay with us, stay focused, and we'll take all the questions in the end. So a little bit about us to begin with. Why should you learn from us? My name is Dhaval Parvatikar. I'm a qualified chartered accountant. I've also completed my 1-year general management program from IIM Ahmedabad. Over the last 15 years, I've worked in diverse industries like oil and gas, software, advertising and public relations, and also global shared services center of a commodity trading company. I've worked in India and in the Middle East as well. Recently, we have co-founded FP&A Professionals Institute along with my partner, Asif Masani. I'm also an active mentor. I might have mentored more than thousands of chartered accountants and finance professionals through one-to-one calls, for which I set aside time, and I try and guide as many people as possible if they are wherever they are stuck in their careers. Over the last 5 years, I have been an active online instructor, and I've trained more than 5,000 professionals on various topics, including finance for non-finance, FP&A, finance leadership, data storytelling, finance business partnering, and much more, right? So a little bit about me. So here I am joined by my partner, Asif Masani. So Asif, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Dhaval. So quick introduction about me. I am Asif Masani. I have 14 years of experience working in corporates, and I worked with different industries, including banking, pharmaceutical, and edtech. So most recently, I was FP&A lead at Coursera until January. This year. Then we were working on this part time for the last 1.5 years, 2 years, and then we moved into this full time early this year. So right now I am the co-founder and lead faculty at FP&A Professionals Institute. Also, I like to write and share my experience on LinkedIn. So some of you may know me from my LinkedIn or my book, which is all about FP&A. This was published back in 2022. Once I had enough material after writing on LinkedIn for about 2.5 years. So that's a little bit about myself, and I'd love to talk about how our journey has been together at FP&A Professionals in the next slide.
Okay, so where are we with the FP&A Professionals Institute? We'll just quickly cover the journey so far. So 2018 is when I published my first course, that is my FP&A Foundations course. It's available on Udemy and on our portal. I was training in FP&A, and then 2022, Asif was writing his book all about FP&A. It's now a bestseller. Probably the number is an old one. It's sold more than 3,000 plus copies now, or probably more than that. And that's when he was writing his book. And 2022, we came together, and I was thinking of coming up with a detailed course on FP&A. So that's when we thought, okay, why not do it together? And we combined forces and launched our flagship program, which is called FP&A Masterclass. We can talk about it later in the session as well. So this is a 4 weeks live coaching program. We cover a lot of topics in this. So that's how we came together and our collaboration started. Currently, we just concluded batch 11 of FP&A Masterclass, which is a live training and coaching program. And after doing this for some time, both of us were in full-time jobs. And in 2023, people came back and asked us for, a self-paced version of this course. They said, we can't attend live. So is there anything for us? Can you launch a self-paced course? And then that's when we launched our 8 weeks FP&A Launchpad self-paced course. And it is available on our portal as well. Asif, you want to talk about 23 and 24?
Yes. So also when we are doing FP&A Masterclass and 8 weeks Launchpad, by then we had about more than 200 people taken FP&A Masterclass by mid of 2023, and about 100 plus people were enrolled in the self-paced program. A lot of people came back and asked us for programs on couple of specific topics, which were on financial modeling and Power BI. So we launched two programs in the last quarter of 2023. One was the financial modeling for FP&A program, and then the other one was Power BI for finance, where we roped in external faculties as well. So these were the two programs we launched end of 2023, and that's when it started becoming difficult to manage it on the weekends with the full-time job. And then I decided to move out of Coursera, which was in November 2023. And then we renamed FP&A Professionals. So we were called FP&A Professionals. We rebranded ourselves as FP&A Professionals Institute in November 2023. And our one of the key projects which we wanted to execute in 2024 was CGFPA, which is a 6-month in-depth FP&A certification, which we launched our first cohort, and we have about 15 students in the first cohort that we launched last month. And the other big project that we are working on is the second book, which is Accounting to FP&A, from Accounting to FP&A, which is also in the editing process. So it should be publishing sometime soon in the next 4 or 5 weeks. So this is what we have been doing in the last, 4 5 years, what you can see. And in that process, we have trained more than 3,000 students across our live self-paced programs. Across all of these programs that you see.
Fantastic. Happy to partner with you, Asif. So you can find learning programs for all levels. For beginners, we have our foundations course and launchpad course, and we also have our resume blueprint and interview secrets course. At intermediate level, we have our flagship program, which is the 4 weeks live FP&A masterclass, and there are courses on financial modeling and Power BI as well. And for the advanced level, there's a 6-month certification program. It's called Certified Global FP&A Professional. So you can all these are available on our portal. You can go and check them whenever you get a chance. So let's start with today's topic: why FP&A is important and why now, right? Uh, if you look at a typical CFO's office, there are various functions rolling up into CFO's office, right? So there is financial reporting, there is taxes, there is M&A, treasury, supply chain, finance. There could be a number of different departments, and each of these have their own specific responsibility. They're responsible for preparation of financial statements, getting the statutory audit done, getting the internal audit done, SOX compliances. All these are taken care of by financial reporting. Treasury has its own role of maintaining banking relationships, making sure that we have adequate working capital in the company, um, sourcing through different means. All of those things are covered by Treasury department. So similarly, each of the department has or function has their own role to play. But amidst all this chaos, amidst all this compliance chaos, right, and process chaos, who is keeping a track on the performance of the business, right? How do we know that we are charging the right price to our clients? How do we know that we are making profits? How do we know that each subcomponent, each business unit, each branch, each product is making profits in the company? That is where FP&A team comes into play. The main role of FP&A team is to provide timely and accurate insights to the CFO and to the business leaders in the company so that they can take informed financial decisions. Right? I spoke about two things: timely and accurate insights. Right? So FP&A is all about commercial stuff. It's not about accounting standards. It's not about rules. It's not about taxes. Right? It's pure commercial stuff where you will be evaluating certain reports, you will be evaluating certain calculations, and telling the CFO or the business leaders in the company that we are running a good show here. We are running a profitable show. That's where FP&A role comes into play. To understand this a little bit better, let me help you understand where FP&A role fits into a company, right? If you are working for a large company, right, there could be a number of different kind of finance and accounting roles, but you can club them or you can group them into three broad buckets, right? So one is financial reporting and compliance. The other one is finance business partnering or commercial finance or FP&A, the commercial side of things, what do you want to call it? And anything that does not fit into these two buckets can be called as specialty finance function. Yeah. In the compliance and the reporting stuff, you normally end up doing everything that is related to reporting and compliance, right? So preparation of financial statements, notes to accounts, internal audit, statutory audit, SOX audit, regulatory reporting, consolidation, all of these things are taken care of by the compliance team or the financial reporting team. And then we have the second bucket, which is the commercial bucket, where it is all about decision support. It's all about tracking the performance of the business. And here, some of the activities are budgeting, forecasting, different types of analysis: revenue, cost, margin, profitability, customer profitability, branch profitability, region profitability, project level profitability. There could be a number of profitabilities that you might be tracking: working capital management, evaluating capex projects, contracts, pricing. All of these commercial stuff falls under this bucket. Okay, and this is what our focus will be today. And a lot of this bucket is experiential learning. Okay. Yes, the accounting courses will teach you compliance. Yes, the accounting courses will teach you financial notes to accounts and some level of finance, right? But not everything can be taught in a classroom. Not everything can be taught through accounting courses. So that's where FP&A kind of becomes a little bit more unique, and you'll always see that people are asking for prior experience in FP&A. Okay. But there are companies who take freshers as well. There are companies who give opportunities to beginners as well, but we'll talk about that in some time. So what about, so the other third bucket, it's specialty functions, which is some expert tasks. It could be treasury, banking, forex management, hedging, fundraising, structured finance, or project finance. Or you could also be in technology oriented roles. Like you could be a planning tool consultant, you could be a functional consultant for an ERP. all these kind of different roles, technology based profiles are also available out there in the companies, right? Now, if you are typically working for a large company, your role is going to be very, very specific. It's going to be a small role. Like you could probably be looking at revenue analysis only, right? Somebody else will be looking at costs, margins, company level P&L, right? But if you're working for a small and medium enterprise, okay, then your role is likely to be blended, right? You could be the one who's preparing financial statements. You could be the one who's maintaining banking relationships. You could be the one who's preparing the budgets also, right? If you're working with a small and medium enterprise, then your role will be pretty blended and all these buckets will overlap. Otherwise, it's going to be very specific if you're working for a typical large company. Okay. Now, what is FP&A? So to deconstruct this phrase, financial FP&A, so I can split it into two aspects, right? So one is financial planning and the other one is financial analysis. Now, financial planning is the future looking function of FP&A, where we are talking about business plan, budgets, annual operating plan, 5-year plan, forecast, estimates, projections. All of these things are financial planning part of FP&A, which is typically future looking, right? Scenario planning, all of that is covered in financial planning. And then comes the financial analysis part, which is all about tracking the ongoing performance of the business. Now, how are we doing in the current month? Actual versus budget, variance analysis, management commentaries, which covers various sorts of comparison. Current month versus previous month, current quarter versus previous quarter, current year, year to date versus previous year, year to date. All these kind of different analysis on an ongoing basis is what is covered in the financial analysis part. Okay, so I hope you are able to distinguish the two within the FP&A function, which is financial planning and financial analysis. Now, where does one start their FP&A career? Now, let's look at that. Asif, you want to just explain this?
Yes. So let me share some of the most common ways in which people enter FP&A. So maybe this will help you. So by having this back of your mind, you will be able to hunt for opportunities better. So just uh, understand the different ways in which people start their FP&A careers. The most common or one of the most common way to start a career is as an intern. These are when you are working. I mean, these are usually bigger companies. So typically having annual revenues more than 500 million US dollars or more than 1,000 people in the company. So these are mid-sized to large companies, and they have a FP&A team of about 30 to 50 people already. So they typically hire two or three interns in their team to help them support various activities. So getting into FP&A internship could be one of the easiest way as a beginner or as a fresher when you want to start into an FP&A career. So what are the other ways? So internship is one. Now this is another way which I've seen a lot of people move into FP&A. I've I mean, when I was working in my previous roles, one of the previous roles, a lot of people working in the controller side, accounting side, once they completed their minimum tenure in their roles, which used to be 1.5 years in most cases. Once they completed 18 months in their role as an accountant, as a controller, then they had an option to apply for internal mobility. And if they had the knowledge of FP&A, meaning if they had studied what FP&A is, they had done their homework by reading books, taking online courses, doing certifications, and they were prepared for the interviews and they were able to crack the interviews, those people usually moved from accounting to FP&A. So internal mobility is another good way. So you should keep an eye if in your organization, present organization, if there is an FP&A team, what size is that FP&A team, how frequently they hire. Most likely, if you can, I mean, it'll be good if you can connect with people in the FP&A team and understand what they are doing, and if they need any help on any projects that you can work together on. So I think those are the things that can help you in building that what do you call as a bridge towards going into the FP&A team inside your present organization. So that is internal mobility. Now, a lot of smaller companies, so we talked about companies which are more than $500 million in revenues and more than 1,000 employees. The companies which are less than say $100 million in revenue and say less than 200 people, as 200 employees. In those companies, the finance team is typically very small. It's about 5 to 6 people overall in the entire finance team. And there, the FP&A function is hybrid, meaning the finance team is hybrid. They perform both accounting and FP&A roles. So if you get into a startup or a smaller organization where you could become a FP&A analyst or a FP&A manager, that could be another way to get FP&A experience in a hybrid role where you're doing both accounting and FP&A together, however, for a smaller organization. So those are the three most common ones. And the fourth one is, again, this is more on the senior. This is more for people who are experienced. So if you have industry experience in one particular industry, say for example, you've been working in banking industry for 10 years or 15 years and you have very good banking experience, or if you have some particular skill experience, for example, say are uh, you are a Anaplan expert, or you are a Power BI expert, or you have some sort of domain expertise, then that could be another way to get into an FP&A role. So these are more common ways to get into FP&A roles. So that answers the question: how do you get into FP&A without having that experience? Now, how do you do that? So we talked about the different roles, but how do you actually? What are the steps that need to be taken to be able to do that transition? So the first step is that you have to understand the in and out of FP&A role. So you have to understand FP&A role thoroughly, what FP&A team does, what does their monthly calendar looks like, which we'll take a look in few minutes. What are each of those activities they do? What are the skills required for the FP&A team? How can you build those skills, and how can you demonstrate those skills from your present experience? So you have to compare your present experience and see what are the transferable skills that you can showcase in your interviews, in your resume, while you apply for FP&A roles. So that is the first step, where you spend a good amount of time, which is 20 to 30 hours at least, reading books, doing online courses, and understanding what the FP&A role is. Now, once you've done that, your second step would be to tailor your resume for FP&A. So you cannot use your resume that you use to apply for accounting or audit roles or taxation roles for FP&A. You have to tailor your resume in a way that it brings out the common skills or the transferable skills that are there in your present role, which can be leveraged in the new FP&A role. So you have to tailor your resume in a way that the person who's reviewing your resume, they should feel that okay, even if this person has not worked in FP&A, this person knows what FP&A is and has prepared the resume in that manner, and he has also taken some courses or some certifications in FP&A. So that is the second step. Once you do that, once you prepare your resume, then you prepare for the interview. And there's I mean, we have a step-by-step process, and we also do webinars on how to prepare for FP&A interviews. So we'll not go into the details right now, but the next step, what you need to do is you need to prepare for your FP&A interviews. And most common things would be to prepare for uh, the company, I mean, research the company and the industry that you are interviewing. Prepare for some of the most common questions that you are usually asked in FP&A roles, and follow some guidelines and principles that we share. So maybe you can take a look at that webinar, which should be there on the YouTube. So next step is preparing for your FP&A interviews. And finally, once you land your FP&A role, it doesn't mean that it's going to be all easy when you get into the FP&A role. The first 3 to 6 months are very critical or most important when you join your first FP&A role, because that's a time where you will have to learn fast. You will have to learn a lot of new things that you will see around, including Excel, including the different tools, including different functions that you might be getting involved while you get into the new role. So these are the steps, ideally, what you should be following when you have to move from your present role into a new FP&A role.
Go ahead, Asif.
Yeah. Some people ask me, how do you explain FP&A in the most simplest way in one sentence? If I have to tell you what is FP&A, so FP&A is a bridge. So you see a bridge in the on the slide. So FP&A is that bridge between the business teams. So you see business teams on the left, which are sales teams, marketing teams, product team, engineering team. So different teams in the organization who are on the business side, and also the functional teams like HR, operations, supply chain. So FP&A team acts as a bridge between those business and the function teams and the senior management. Your senior management is your CFO, CEO, one level below the CEO, all your marketing head, sales head, which are directly reporting to the CEO. Those are all your senior management. Some people call it leadership, some people call it executive staff. So FP&A team, what it does, it acts as a bridge between the two. If you pick up any function of FP&A, which we'll take a look in the next few slides, uh, so say let's take an example of budgeting. So what do you do in budgeting? You collect inputs from the business teams on the left. You analyze those inputs, you consolidate those, you refine those, and then you present that to the senior management. Same thing happens in forecasting. You collect inputs, you analyze, you consolidate, you present to the senior management. And in most activities, that will be the case. So in one sentence, FP&A is a bridge between your business and your senior management.
Right. So now, what are some of the key activities that are carried out by FP&A professionals? Now, there could be dozens of activities carried out by FP&A professionals, which we'll come to that in a minute. But these are some of the four core activities that you will find in every company, no matter what is the size of the company, small, medium, large. You will find these some or the other variations of these four activities, right? That's your budgeting or forecasting, and under management reporting or management commentaries, you have your variance analysis and profitability analysis. Now, let's spend a little bit more time to understand what are these aspects, right? Budgeting is your planning, right? It's your preparing a business plan, preparing your projections for the next financial year. So every company, what happens is that before the start of the financial year, they come together and they start preparing the budget for the next year. Now, it could be the end outcome of the budget looks pretty much similar to a P&L or an income statement, where it has revenue, where it has costs, and where it has its operating profit, taxes, and profit after tax as well. But the revenue is a projected revenue, the cost is projected cost. So there are techniques how you can come up with that revenue estimate. You will have to collaborate with the business, you'll have to understand those inputs, and then come up with the budget, and we'll show you an example in some time. So you'll have to come up with a budget. The end outcome of the budget looks pretty much similar to a P&L. And budgeting is generally a very big activity in FP&A, and it starts sometime 2 to 3 months before the start of the financial year. There'll be a number of iterations, the assumptions, the business environment will keep changing, and you'll have to keep updating yourself with that. And then finally, you come up with a certain number which will be approved by the management, and that goes into the system as a budget, and that will stay as a budget in the system. Yeah. Then comes forecasting. Now, what is forecasting? So during the financial year, now budgeting was all about before the start of the financial year. Now, during the financial year, you need to track the performance of the business. For example, let's say if Jan to December is the financial year, so budgeting is already prepared. The budget for the financial year is ready and it is already uploaded in the system. And now let's say we are at the end of March. So we have 3 months of actuals and 9 months of estimates, right? And these 9 months of estimates may undergo a change, and it need not necessarily be the amount that was there in the budget. Okay. That is a forecast, where it has 3 months of actuals and 9 months of projections. When you complete 6 months in the financial year, you will have 6 months of actuals and 6 months of projections. Okay, so that is what is a forecast. A forecast is to track the revenue, track the costs on an ongoing basis, either on a monthly or a quarterly basis. Some companies follow monthly forecast, some companies follow quarterly forecast, where at the end of every quarter, you will review what was the actuals for the the periods of the financial year that has already completed, and then what is the estimate for the balance period of the financial year. Right? So that is what forecasting is all about. Then comes management commentaries. On a regular basis, after you close the month, you will be providing a lot of commentaries in the sense that you will prepare certain reports. These reports will have comparison between actual versus budget, actual versus forecast, current month versus previous month, current month versus previous year, current month. All these different comparisons are there, and you will capture reasons for variances and come up with your explanations as to whether we are on track or off track. And if we are off track, why are we off track? Right? So you'll capture all your commentaries and then supply it to the management. Could be the CFO, could be the business unit head, could be the general manager, could be the CEO, whoever the case might be. And then they can look at the reports, understand where we are heading in terms of the direction of the business, and make any course corrections if possible. Make any course corrections if possible, right? And then implement those course corrections to make sure that you come back on track. So that is what management commentaries and reporting is all about. So today, I mean, we have limited time. So what we'll do is we'll just quickly show you two examples. One of budget, how does a budget look like, and what are some of the components of the budget? And then an example of a management commentary. Okay, so let's quickly take a look at that. Asif, you want to start with the budget? I'm not sure. Asif is stuck. Asif, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Just give me. I had this. There was one tool that got stuck on my Zoom.
Okay,
So let me
sure.
just share my screen now. Yeah, I'll just share my screen. So what we'll do now is we'll take a quick look at an example of a budget. Again, this is a very simplified example, just so that we can cover it in the next 2 to 5 minutes. In reality, it'll be a more detailed or a exhaustive exercise. So, say for example, you have historical numbers for the last 5 years, and you are you are being given the task of preparing the budget for the next year, which is 2024 in this case. So, just like you have the usual P&L, budget is nothing but the P&L for your next financial year. So you will go through the P&L line by line and then forecast or predict or project, whatever you call it, the P&L for the next financial year. So you will go to each and every line of the P&L and you will try to come up with the numbers for the next year. So let's take an example of revenue budget in this case, which is for 2024. So I'm just taking a very simplified example where you have two drivers. One is your quantity and your pricing. So your most important step in when you do a budget is to identify the key drivers that will get you to the revenue number. So in this case, we identified, okay, quantity and pricing are the two most important drivers that will help us calculate the revenue number. So once we identify that, we will project the demand for the next year, which is the quantities for the next financial year for the different products, and we will figure out what will be the pricing for the next year. So we'll project these two drivers independently with the help of the business and then come up with the revenue number. So once you identify the drivers and you identify the relationship between those drivers to come up with the revenue number, you can come up with the revenue number for your next financial year. In this case, the relationship is very simple. Your price into volume is giving you the revenue number. However, this might not be as simple as this. There can be 10 different drivers and different mathematical relationship between the way in which you arrive at the revenue number. So for now, let's understand while you are budgeting, you have to identify the key drivers, just like in this case, you are identifying quantity and price, and the relationship between the drivers to be able to get to the revenue number. Once you do that, you should be able to calculate the budget for the next financial year. So this was on the budget. Now, what happens once you complete the budget and once everything is locked and when you come to the next financial year? So let's say when you come to 2024, so read this as 2024, this should be 2024. So let's say you come to the 2024 and 3 months have gone by, or first quarter of the 2024 is over. Now you have to revisit the remaining 9 months of 2024. Again, do the same thing, revisit the drivers for the remaining 9 months, revisit the pricing for the remaining 9 months, revisit the volume for the remaining 9 months, and come up with the forecast for the balance period, which is going to be 3 months of actual numbers and the 9 months of the revised budget or the forecast. So you do that at the end of every month or every quarter, depending on when your company decides to update the forecast. Some companies would like to update the forecast every month. Some companies would like to update it once every quarter. So depending on the frequency, you will update the forecast, which will be a combination of actual numbers and the rest of the year forecast. So in this case, this is usually called as a 3 plus 9 forecast, meaning 3 months of actuals and 9 months of forecast. When you are at the end of the June month, you will have 6 months of actuals and you will have to reforecast for the remaining 6 months. So it will be called 6 plus 6, meaning 6 months of actuals and 6 months of forecast. When you get to the end of September quarter or beginning of October quarter, you will have actuals for 9 months and you will have to forecast for the remaining 3 months. So this will be called 9 plus 3 forecast, meaning 9 months of actuals and 3 months of forecast. So this is usually how a budget or a forecast looks like in a very simplified way. Obviously, we go into a lot more details and examples and case studies when we go into the FP&A masterclass. However, for this short explanation, I thought this will be good. It will be good to show you this example.
Yeah. Asif, if we can just come to the 2024 budget sheet, we can just cover one more point in
Yeah,
terms of different components, right? So we showed an example of a revenue and a salary cost, but you will see other expenses. There are selling expenses, general administration expenses, all of these depreciation, capex, all of these expenses will be there. And you apply the same logic, you understand the drivers, you understand your existing contracts, existing costs, and then you project your costs for the upcoming financial year as well. And then you can arrive at the estimated operating profit. So this is how an end outcome of a budget looks like. In real life, probably you get 2 to 3 weeks to do this, right? Because this is the main activity of FP&A teams, and they are extremely busy when the financial year is coming to an end. They always keep playing different scenarios and making sure that they are coming up with the right kind of budget and a business plan for the next financial year. So this was about the budgeting and forecasting topic. Then the other aspect that I shared was management reporting. So where I told you that at regular intervals, you may have to give certain commentaries to the management, and those will be comparisons between actual versus forecast, actual versus budget. And I'll quickly share with you an example of that as well. Again, this is a real life example that I've just changed some of the names to protect confidentiality, but this was for one of the companies that I've worked with. This commentary that you see is pretty detailed. Many times it could be just some charts and graphs. Many business leaders like tables. Some business leaders like only charts. Some business leaders like only graphs, right? So depending on how your stakeholder is interested. But this is one of the reports which is very detailed and it helps me explain to you all the concepts. Now here you see you have, this is actually a report prepared at the end of July 2022, right? July 2022, this is an actual report. And here you have your 2021 actuals, that's your previous year actuals for the month. Here it is written current month, right? 2021 actuals for the current month, 2022 plan means budget, right? For the current month, forecast 6 plus 6 means last forecast that we had conducted in the previous month. And now what are the actuals? When I was preparing the forecast at the end of the last month, right? Or beginning of the month, I was estimating 2.3 million of sales. I ended up with 2.4 million, right? Here is my variance with the previous year, variance with the plan, variance with the latest forecast. This is for the current month. Similarly, I have it for year to date as well, right? January to July 2021, January to July in the budget, January to July actuals. Okay, again my comparison and some of the variances. And now I have also estimated my 7 plus 5 forecast, which is I have my projections for the next 5 months. What is the full year looking like? Right? That information I also have here. Now what this does is this throws up some variances, right? Versus plan versus forecast, this throws up some variances, and those variances I've captured in commentaries along with certain explanations, like versus plan in the current month, why it has gone up, why it has gone down, versus forecast, what has gone up, what has gone down, year to date July 22, what has gone up, what has gone down, right? And this was during the time of COVID, so there were some qualitative comments as well in the commentary. Like for example, you'll say effective 6th June, teams are working from office for 3 days a week. It was the lockdown 2.0, and we had just started coming to office 1 or 2 days a week. Yeah. So that's how detailed management commentary looks like. It need not always be this exhaustive. Sometimes people prefer abridged and brief commentaries. Sometimes some business leaders prefer detailed commentaries. In this example, the business leader was a regional president based in Hong Kong, and she always preferred a detailed commentary, which she'd like to print and bring it to the meetings and all of that. So everything had to be fit on one page and as detailed as possible. So that was her style of working. But people may prefer charts, graphs, minimal commentaries, slides, whatever the case might be. So you will have to understand your stakeholder and then work backwards to give them certain reports for decision making, whatever are required, right? So let me come back to the slides. Yeah. So these are some of the main activities in FP&A, which is budgeting, forecasting, and management reporting. So we saw some examples of that as well. So let's move forward. So what are some of the key traits for you to be successful FP&A professionals? I'll just quickly cover this. I might have covered this on other platforms as well. Business acumen, right? It's your ability to think like a businessman. It's your ability to feel those numbers beyond Excel sheets, right? And not just confine yourself to Excel sheets. Are you able to really understand the business impact of those numbers, right? And how can you develop that? Follow your competitors. Speak to cross-functional teams, build relationships with cross-functional teams. That's when you will truly understand the business. Otherwise, everything will just be an Excel sheet for you, right? You won't be able to feel those numbers, right? When I started my career in FP&A, it was just spreadsheets for me. I used to do some VLOOKUPs here and there, and I felt that, who's using these reports and for what, God knows, right? I was not able to place the context. But when I became a CFO, when I became a senior, that is when everything started making sense. Okay, this person will prepare this report and send it to me. I'm able to take X decision out of this or Y decision out of this. So it will start making sense only when you are able to place that role or place that activity in the larger context, or in the larger scheme of things. Okay, so that's what you need to focus on when it comes to business acumen. Analytical skills. Analytical skills is your ability to correlate different set of numbers and find out patterns, find out insights from it, right? For example, if I tell you that the marketing budget of a certain company is $5 million, you won't be able to make out anything out of this number. But now if I tell you that this $5 million represents 5% of sales, which means the sales turnover is $100 million, and 5% of sales we are generally spending on marketing. Okay, now you compared it with sales and you were able to come up with some information, some more information. Now I'll give you some more additional information. The last 3 years average marketing spend has been 3% of sales. Now you have some analysis done where you can go back and question the marketing director and say, hey, Mr. Marketing Director, the 3 years average is 3% of sales, and this year we are spending 5% of sales on marketing. Any special year, any one-time expenses? Why is it going up? Should we need to reduce it in the budget? All these kind of questions you can ask only when you are able to establish these relationship between different numbers. Okay. Next is cross-functional relationships. FP&A roles will not be your typical roles where you'll come, sit on your Excel sheets and go home. These will always be interactive, and you will always end up interacting with multiple cross-functional teams, and not just business leaders. It could be tax team, it could be compliance team, it could be legal team, pricing team, right? It could be HR, it could be business development, sales, right? All of these relationships you will have to build stronger. As a CFO, I used to spend at least 1.5 to 2 hours every day just to informally meet people, try and catch them on a coffee or a lunch or something like that, just to build that relationship with the cross-functional team, so that if there is anything going on in the company, I come to know that and I will be able to manage my numbers better. Yeah, so go build those relationships. IT and data literacy. Every company uses some or the other kind of tool, right? Need to learn? Absolutely not. tools are not a substitute for your conceptual understanding. They're only an aid. They're only a supplement for your conceptual understanding. Okay. Even if you don't know Power BI, even if you don't know any FP&A tool, you will still be able to do FP&A. Okay. So don't worry about the tool. Tool you can worry about only once you figure out that your company is using a certain tool. Let's say once you join a certain company and you figure out that they are using Power BI extensively, then it is your duty to invest 30, 40, 50 hours, how much ever it is, to become an expert in Power BI. Right? Then you cannot make any excuses. Okay. But till then, it's okay. Even if you have a fair understanding or a broad understanding of certain tools, that's fine. Data literacy is your ability to understand different relationships between data, basic statistics, mean, median, mode, average, deviation. What happens with these basic statistics is what you will need to be aware of. So these are some of the traits that are important for you to be successful at FP&A roles. Now, we covered some aspects in budgeting, forecasting, management reporting, right? A typical reaction that I get when I ask people is, what do you think FP&A team does? They say some dashboards, some budget here and there, some forecast here and there. Not really, right? It's all about supporting the business. And what are some of the typical activities that are involved in an FP&A month? We look at that on the upcoming slide. Over to you, Azhar.
Yeah, so before we get into the FP&A calendar, few things I wanted to share as a side note is first that this is excluding the budget. So budget happens once in a year, and it's a separate 2 month activity. Usually happens at the end of the financial year. So most companies it happens between August to October, and that is a separate activity altogether. So we'll not cover the budget in the monthly calendar because it doesn't happen every month. So that is the first thing. The second thing is that this is how do you read this is as a typical monthly calendar. So we'll have week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and week 1 meaning it will be the first 7 days of the calendar month. Week 2 will be 7th to 15th of the calendar month. Week 3 will be 15th to 23rd of the calendar month, and so on and so forth. So that is the second thing. Third, and the most important thing is that this is not a standard FP&A calendar that you will see across all the companies, all the industries. This is a best practice average calendar that we have seen across hundreds of companies as an average, meaning this is typically on an average what a FP&A calendar looks like. Doesn't mean that you will see this calendar in all the companies. Some companies might be better than this, some companies might be behind this calendar or will be lagging behind in terms of what needs to be done. So it depends on the organization age, it depends on the maturity of the FP&A team. So typically an organization where the FP&A team is very new, a lot of the activities you see here in week 1 will be done in week 3 just because they are still in the process of setting up things. And in an organization where the FP&A team has been there for 10 years, you will see a lot of things happening in week 2 in this calendar, also happening in week 1, just because they have been there and doing that for last 10 years and they have become so efficient and they have automated a lot of things. So keep in mind, this is an average calendar and a best practice calendar. Not necessarily you will see this in all the organizations. So let's go to the week 1 of the FP&A calendar. So what happens in week 1? So usually most companies close their books of accounts, and you must know this. Most of you are from accounting or auditing background, from what I know, that it takes about 3 to 5 days on an average for most companies to close the books. Some companies might even take longer. However, the senior management will not wait for the books closure to be able to look at the performance of the previous month. So they will want to know how the previous month was even before the books of accounts are closed. What this means is that the FP&A team will have to give them the best estimate that they can on the first of the month or the second of the month before the books of accounts are closed, so that they can know what the last month performance was. It need not be 100% accurate, it can be 95% accurate based on whatever data is available and whatever the estimation needs to be done. That is what is the flash report, where you send out the flash reports on a daily or in sometimes weekly basis before the books are closed, before the month end reports are available to the senior management. And typically it is done only for the most important items or the most important lines. Most likely it could be the revenue line, or it could be some of the more bigger expenses that you will be doing the flash reports on. Now, the book of accounts or the books of accounts typically is closed by the accounting team. This is done by accounting team, not FP&A team. So listen to that carefully. So the accounting team does the closure of the books. However, once the books are closed, the FP&A team and the accounting team in most companies will get together in a meeting room or in on a Zoom call nowadays and review the month-end numbers together. So that is what the accounting close review is called. So FP&A team and the accounting team will take a look at the actual numbers once the books are closed, and then figure out, okay, what is the difference between the actuals and the last updated forecast that they had done. So we'll come to the forecast, but they must have done some forecast in the previous month, and they're trying to see how or why is the actual number, how much or why is the actual number different from the last updated forecast they had done. And they will also give the commentaries and the business variance commentaries for that, and all of that will be used in the month end reporting. So this is typically how the week one looks like. So you start with flash reporting, then the books of accounts are closed by the accounting team, the accounting books are reviewed together by accounting and FP&A, and then the month end reports are prepared because you now have the actual numbers with you. So there's a question, aren't these tasks done in R2R function as well? FP&A is the extension of same. So record to report, it might be, so you might be doing these activities very specifically for that function, not for the entire organization, right? So in R2R, you might be restricted to one part of the function. Okay, so let's take a look at week two. So in week one, what you had done? In week one, you had done the flash reports and the month-end review and the commentaries and the reports. So that was week one. In week two, now you have the actual numbers for last month. Now what you will do is you will go to the last updated forecast that you had done. Most likely you must have done the forecast in the last month. So right now, if we are in June, if this is the week two of June, you must have done the forecast update in the second week of May last time. So you will take that forecast version. So that forecast version would be 4 months of actuals. So Jan to April actuals and 8 months of forecast, right? So in May, you must have done, in mid of May, you must have done a 4+8 forecast, which is 4 months of actuals and 8 months of forecast. So now what you will do this week or this time is you will actualize the May numbers in that forecast. So you will take that version of the forecast, you will replace the May forecast numbers with the May actual numbers. So that is called actualization of the forecast numbers. Now, once you actualize the May numbers, you will also revisit the forecast for the remaining months, which is June to December. And that is how you will update the preliminary version of the forecast. So you will actualize the May numbers. You will update the numbers if required from June to December. And that is how the FP&A team will update the preliminary forecast. Once the preliminary forecast update is done, you will call that as a new version. So that now this version will, last version was 4+8. This version will be called 5+7, right? 5 months of actuals because you have actuals till end of May, and then 7 months of forecast. So you will review this 5+7 forecast with the business teams. So you will, if you are doing the forecast, say for example, for salary, you will get it reviewed with the HR head. If you're doing the forecast for, say, marketing, you will get it reviewed by the marketing manager. So depending on what area of forecast you are doing, you will get it reviewed from the business team. They will give you some more inputs, which you might not know. So they will give you some intel or some knowledge or some things that they know you may not know those, and based on that you will be updating the forecast. Okay, so they may know of some business activities that are going to happen or that have changed from the last forecast, which you did not know. So all those things will get updated in the forecast, and you will update the forecast once the review with the business team is done. Once you do the review with the business team, you will then review the forecast with the head of FP&A, which is your boss, or the CFO, which is typically the head of finance. So you will get that reviewed with the CFO, and then once the CFO reviews it, he may also give you some changes, and you have to make those changes, and then the forecast is final. So your 5+7 forecast is now final, and you will update that forecast in the system, upload that forecast in the system, and you will now use this forecast when you come to next month, week 1, when you will be updating the accounting, when you will be doing the accounting review for the next month. So when in July first week, when you will be doing the accounting review, you will use this forecast as a point of comparison to do the variance analysis, which is actuals versus forecast. So this is how the typically week 2 looks like. So right now I'm just giving you an overview. However, we go into each of these items in detail with multiple case studies and examples in the FP&A masterclass, which we will talk about in the upcoming slides. So until now, what we have done, until now, we have completed week 1 and week 2, which is actuals reporting and forecasting update. So we have completed actuals reporting, which is management reports, and the forecast update for the particular month. Now we move to week 3. So week 3 in most companies or in most FP&A roles is slightly ad hoc, meaning it does not, because you've done the reporting and you've done the forecasting, most of the heavy lifting has been done in week 1 and week 2. Some company, I mean, some FP&A teams try to schedule their leaves, I mean, time offs during this week 3 because it's comparatively lighter compared to the other 3 weeks during the month. So it's comparatively lighter and more or less more of ad hoc work that you do. So whatever you could not do in week 1, week 2, and what you cannot do in week 4, you typically try to do that in week 1. Some of the activities which we go in detail when we do the FP&A masterclass is working capital management, which is reviewing your current assets, current liabilities, your working capital ratios. Analyzing your working capital is what you can do in your week 3. Recharges and allocations is another activity, which is allocating the common costs that are incurred at the head office level among different business units and different departments so that you get the business unit level net profitability. So those are some activities you do in week 3, which is typically on the analysis and the financial analysis that we looked at in the previous slide. Also, you work on some, I mean, if most of the FP&A teams are involved in some cross-functional project where they are working with other business teams, other functional teams on some problem that the company is trying to solve, and they are there as a FP&A lead or the finance representative. So a lot of, I mean, because this is slightly lighter week, you might, or FP&A teams might spend more time on those special projects or those cross-functional projects. Also, you continue to support the business. As I mentioned, a lot of teams also focus on automation, and they want to make sure that their week 1, week 2, week 4 are more efficient, faster next time. So a lot of teams also focus on use this time to automate a lot of tasks that they usually do on a repetitive basis so that their week 1, week 2 becomes faster and easier. Apart from that, you continue to meet business teams. So once you've updated the forecast, it is very important. So once you update the forecast, it doesn't mean that your responsibility is over. You have to continue monitoring the forecast, meaning if he had submitted the forecast end of week 2, in week 3, if there is any material change in the assumptions that you had in the forecast that could significantly impact the forecast number, those items you have to monitor. And if there are any significant risk or opportunity, meaning if there is a significant upside or downside that you notice in week 3, which you had submitted the forecast in week 2, you have to note that down as a risk and or opportunity. And in rare cases or in extreme cases, you may also flag that to the senior management if there is a if there is a serious I mean change going to happen to your forecast, then probably you may need to flag that to the senior management right away. So that is how the typically week 3 looks like. Week 4 again is preparation for week 1. So you are at the end of the month and you are preparing for your week 1, which is the next month's books of accounts closing. So during this week, all of these activities that you see, which is a revenue close, accruals, prepaid, passing journal entries, those are done by the accounting team. However, FP&A team will partner with them, or they will help them in making sure that all the accruals are taken care of or all the entries are being passed. Just because the FP&A team is more closer to the business, they may know some some transactions or some things that the accounting team may not know of. So that's where they partner and they help in closing the books of accounts. Also, the revenue or the flash estimates that we talked about, the flash reports, they typically start during the end of the month. So you start typically on the 27th, 28th, and then they continue till the time the books of accounts are closed in week 1. So again, now the week 4, the cycle will continue in the next month, which will be starting from week 1, which is flash report, month end close, and that will continue in the next month as well. Okay, so that was the FP&A calendar in short. We go through this in lot more detail. We go through examples of each of these activities in the FP&A masterclass. So we will definitely we'll share some of the details about the FP&A masterclass in the further slides. Back to you,
Great,
Dhawan.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Asif. So I hope you all got a little bit of idea about what FP&A role is, what work is being done. It's not always about some fancy dashboards and colorful, drag and drops here and there, right? So it's all about supporting the business, supporting the accounting team, making sure that you are reporting things in the right way so that business teams can take certain decisions. Okay. Cool. So let me cover this very quickly. We're running out of time. So I call it the FP&A success mantra. This is a quick framework of how you can build your career. If you're starting out new in an FP&A role, or once you get that opportunity to work in FP&A, you need to get a grip on three things as soon as possible. One is understand where do you fit in the organization structure? Who are your top stakeholders? Who are those top 4 or 5 people who will influence your work? And what are some of the industry specific KPIs that are important? Now, org structure could be anywhere, like you could be working in a big company in a very specific role, like a revenue analysis team or an expense analysis team. I remember when I was working with a commodity trading company, they had a travel budget of $2 to $2.5 million per month. So we had 2 analysts just to analyze travel expenses, not not the travel desk in the company, just to analyze travel expenses as to which department is spending, which country is spending how much on travel. Right. So it could be that specific as well. Sometimes you could be part of revenue team, sometimes you could be part of a central consolidation team, whatever the case might be. Center of excellence is your global shared services center. Typically, American and European companies are now outsourcing a lot of accounting and back office functions to India, and FP&A is no different. Probably 20 years ago, everything started with outsourcing accounting, but today FP&A is also being outsourced. I was working with the shared services of a commodity trading company. We were doing budgeting, forecasting, management reporting for more than 80 different countries sitting in Mumbai. Right. So it's pretty much outsourcing as well. So don't reject finance and accounting roles in shared services or in outsourcing centers just because assuming that they are back office, right? They may have a flavor of mid to front office as well, right? So just keep an eye on that. Project-based FP&A roles, think about architecture firms or interior design firms or construction companies. They operate from project to project. So they need to understand what is the revenue, costing, margin, everything to be analyzed project-wise. So that what project FP&A role comes into play. In a mid-sized company, you will have a full view of the P&L. You know what's happening in the company, what is the overall company revenue, costs, margins, all of that access you will be having. But as opposed to that, in a big company, you may not have access to the full P&L, but you will have access to either your business unit or your branch or the uh, function that you are looking at, right? So these are some of the departments, and see where you fit into the organization structure, because that will give you some context, right? And if you are sitting in a project based FP&A role, then the project manager or the project lead or the business unit lead will be your stakeholder, will be your key stakeholder, right? So, and it will depend on where you sit into the organization. Stakeholders, you could be working with a number of departments. You will always be collecting some or the other inputs. So you'll be dependent on them for inputs, and they will be dependent on you for providing certain reports and insights. So maintain good relationship with them. At times, you may come across a certain friction between a sales team and a FP&A team. That's all part of the game, right? But everything has to be balanced, and you will have to take everybody along with you to make sure that the company performance is not affected, right? I don't think so. We have time for discussions. Let me cover this quickly. So by key performance indicators, I mean there are some typical, uh, you know, measures or metrics that the company would be tracking. I'm covering two examples here. Let's say an oil and gas company tracks something called as a gross refining margin, which is basically your selling price minus your cost of crude oil, right? And gross margin is your selling price minus your entire cost of production, not just crude oil, your entire cost of production, right? So this is gross margin. Net margin is your gross margin minus your discount. So these are some of the typical KPIs for oil and gas industry. Similarly, there could be different KPIs for hospitality industry. There could be different KPIs for a bank. There could be different KPIs for an insurance company. You will have to understand what are some of the key performance indicators that your industry, your sector is tracking, and then you have to plan your plan your understanding accordingly. A software company might be tracking something called as a compensation or a salary ratio, because people are the most important cost in a software company. Typically 40 to 50% of sales represents people cost in a company. Revenue per headcount, compensation or salary per headcount, all these are important metrics. For example, a Google may be comparing its revenue per headcount versus Microsoft, right? Or an Infosys might be comparing it with Wipro and trying to understand how much are we making, per person. Similarly, how much are we making this per dollar of salary cost invested on headcount. So these are some of the metrics that software companies could be tracking. So similarly, you'll have to look at your industry and see what kind of metrics they are tracking. For example, one of the typical metrics in a hospitality industry is occupancy rate in a hotel, right? Are you at 80% occupancy? Are you at 90% occupancy? That will determine your revenue as well, right? So that's how you will have to track certain discussions. So if you are getting into an FP&A role, or whether planning to, or whether you are just got a new FP&A role, then these are the three things that you need to focus on: where you fit into the organization structure, who are your key stakeholders and what influence they have on your role, and then your KPIs. If you are able to get a grip on these three things in the first 1 or 2 weeks of your FP&A role, then you will be set up for success in that role. Right. Cool. So again, a quick framework to build your career. Everything starts with conceptual foundations, right? There is no substitute for conceptual understanding. Sometimes I get questions like, if I learn Power BI, will I get into FP&A? No, right? If you don't have an understanding of what budgets are, what forecasts are, what gross margin is, what pricing is, what variance analysis is, okay, learning Power BI is not a substitute. Learning any tool is not a substitute. So you need to focus on conceptual understanding, and on top of this conceptual foundation, you will build your three pillars. That's your soft skills, experience, and tools. Your soft skills is the way you communicate with cross-functional teams, because it's not just about coming, sitting behind your Excel sheets and going home. You'll always be interacting with cross-functional teams, and how you communicate. They don't understand 10,000 lines of Excel sheets. So how do you speak to them? How do you convince the information? How do you make them take certain action? Right? That's where your soft skills comes into play. Experience is your sector-specific experience. When you become a senior, tying yourself up to one sector can be very beneficial, right? If you are a software company FP&A lead, or if you're a software company CFO, right, it would be very easy to switch to a competitor with a 20-30% hike, 40% hike, right? So maybe when you become senior, when you have that 10 plus 15 years experience, right, that time you may think about tying yourself up to one industry, so that you can make those switches at higher, or get that vertical promotion in some other company. Tools, again, there's no one tool. There are many tools that companies are using. But if you ask me, what is that one tool that I need to learn? Maybe Power BI, but again, not all companies are using it. It's a good to have, but FP&A analysis, everything happens even without tools as well, right? So tools are only an aid; they are only a supplement, and they are not a substitute for your understanding. And then you always improve, lead, and adapt, right? So as and when you become senior, you'll have to start learning leadership skills. You'll start leading a team of analysts. You'll have to guide them. Your analysts could be sitting somewhere else in different branches, or locations. You will have to start leading them, and then finally continuously keep adapting yourself to the industry needs, and then keep updating yourself, right? So this is a quick career framework. How do you build your FP&A career? It's not an overnight job. It's not something that you do for a couple of weeks or read a book and then you become an FP&A expert. It's a it's a constant effort that you put in for years and years and years together. That is when you will become a strong FP&A lead or an FP&A expert. So that's a journey. It's like any other finance and accounting role, but you'll have to start with conceptual understanding, right? Part of the problem is that FP&A roles are experiential based roles. Like how Asif and I learned FP&A, it's through some other senior. I went to some other department, and if he's in a good mood, he'll teach me what is budgeting, what is forecasting. If not, then I'll try and figure out something, make my own set of mistakes. But today, there was, back when Asif and I started, we did not have LinkedIn, we did not have online courses, we did not have any source to connect with people and understand what is FP&A. But today we live in this fortunate world where we are connected on LinkedIn. You can just message Asif or me and we'll answer your question on LinkedIn. You can speak to people who are working in FP&A. You can do online courses. You can get videos out of this. There are so many sources to learn FP&A. Yet I always get requests asking to work in FP&A role. And when I ask them, okay, what effort have you put? Absolute zero efforts. That's what sometimes saddens me. But if you really are serious about working in FP&A, right, then start learning it to the resources available with you. Okay. Now, from basis whatever we have covered so far, if you found FP&A interesting, okay, let me be very realistic about it. It's not just about some fancy dashboards and clicking buttons here and there and making some fancy charts. It's about getting dirty with the business, analyzing everything, helping the business take certain decisions, influence their decisions, right? That's what true FP&A is. Now, basis what we have shared so far, if you feel that you need to learn more about FP&A, if you feel that there is a need to get more conceptual understanding, right, which will enhance your effectiveness in the interviews, which will enhance your probability of getting that FP&A role. If you feel that you will still need to get into learn more about FP&A, so then we have our training programs. You can start with the Launchpad course, which is a self-paced course, and there's other 4 weeks live coaching program, which is our flagship program, which we recommend to everybody. It's called FP&A Masterclass. I'll talk a little bit about FP&A Masterclass. Okay. FP&A Masterclass basically has 4 different modules. One is budgeting and forecasting, where we cover everything start to end, concept to examples, revenue budget, costing, marketing budget, sales budget, salary budget, everything, right? From budgeting, forecasting, theory, as well as examples, real life examples, right? Then management reporting, where we have different types of management report, your flash report, your monthly report, your quarterly report. What are some of the things that you need to look at during variance analysis? All of those things are covered during management reporting analysis module. Storytelling and presentations. How do you communicate your results to the non-finance team members? They don't understand 10,000 lines of Excel sheets. So how do you use, and what type of chart, graph, or what kind of message do you use to communicate with non-finance teams? That is what storytelling and presentations is all about. And then comes finance business partnering. How do you truly collaborate with the business? Right? How do you become a solution provider? In most companies, finance is a scary thing, right? Sales teams, business teams are afraid of financing because they'll come and say no. They'll talk about rule books, they'll talk about accounting standards, they'll talk in a language that the business teams will not understand. That's not true finance business partnering. How do you start talking solutions and start collaborating with the business? That's what finance business partnering is. That's what we'll cover in the finance business partnering module. So all in all, 4 different modules that will equip you with all the basic to intermediate stuff for FP&A roles. You will get more confident. You will be exposed to certain scenarios, group discussions. All of those things are covered in the FP&A masterclass. How much time does it take? Does it take 100 hours to attend FP&A masterclass? Absolutely not. The premise that Asif and I have built this masterclass is that if I have to hire, or if Asif has to hire a FP&A team member in his team or in my team, right? How do we quickly get them up to speed? And I've done this. I've hired FP&A candidates who had no FP&A experience, brought them up to speed within 1 month. That's what we are replicating here in FP&A masterclass. All you need to spend with us is 4 Saturdays, Sundays, 2 hours each. 16 hours of your life, if you are able to give to FP&A masterclass, then you will have a significantly higher understanding of what FP&A is, rather than shooting in the dark when you're applying for opportunities. Okay, so when do we start? The next live program, which is batch number 12, mind you, more than 350 people have taken this course, and what you see is a much more refined, a polished version with a lot of feedback, with a lot of improvements. Batch 12 starts 22nd June. Every Saturday, Sunday, we meet 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. IST. Okay, and all we are asking for is 16 hours. That's 4 weeks, 4 Saturdays, Sundays. Only as much as your favorite binge watch, right? So 16 hours is what you invest in every Saturday, Sunday, 2 hours. It starts 22nd June, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. IST. So this is the schedule that we will be covering in. Now, 16 hours of live coaching, worth easily more than 60,000 rupees. 15 plus practical case studies and examples is what we cover in the class. We have sessions on interview preparation secrets. We have sessions on resume guide. All of this easily worth over $1,000. Yeah. And if you are joining the master class, you will also get 3 different bonuses. One is your FP&A Foundations course, which is a quick 2-hour course which will help you understand everything basic that is required to attempt an FP&A interview, right? Everything that is happening in FP&A, it will give you the basic understanding. That's the FP&A Foundations course worth 4,000 rupees. Bonus number 2 is the interview and resume prep sessions that I spoke about. We have covered session on detailed step-by-step interview. How does your resume stand out in the clutter there? How do you prepare for certain interview questions where you have never worked in FP&A? Okay, but that is what is covered in these 2 modules, which is worth easily more than 10,000 rupees. And do we stop everything after the 4 weeks masterclass? Absolutely no. We meet once a month. Our alumni group is strong, spread across the globe. More than 350 people are connected on WhatsApp group. We all meet once a month for Q&A, for discussing any queries that you might have. Asif and I will be personally present there. Take your questions, answer them, go through any challenges that you might be facing. Sometimes we bring in external speakers as well. They could be industry experts, they could be tool experts. We have had more than 4 tool demos now. Different kind of tool demos, tool providers came to help our alumni understand how an FP&A tool looks like, how it is used, all of those things. All of this is covered in the monthly mastermind calls, and the value is truly priceless of you being in part of this community. Now, all of this put together, the masterclass, the foundations, the interview secrets, the mastermind calls, just to sum it up, all of this easily worth over $1,000. If you look at any equivalent live FP&A programs available out there, they might charge you a fee of anywhere between $1,000 to $5,000. $1,000 to $5,000. But what we have done is that we have priced it at a very modest $347 only. But again, now we are starting the batch on 22nd of June. So we have very less time. So just for today's attendees, just because we value your time and you have stayed with us till the end of the session, we are giving an additional $50 of discount, and we are pricing it only at $297. $297, roughly about 25,000 rupees in rupee terms. And you can also pay it in 2 installments, 2 equal installments at absolutely no extra cost. Right? If you feel that you are ready to take on a role in FP&A, or you want to work in FP&A over the next 8 to 12 months, then this is the course to do. Okay, the kind of support that you will get from me and Asif will be unparalleled, and we don't need to talk about it. There are dozens and dozens of testimonials that we have got. All of them are available on our portal. You can go through them, and it's finally your call, right? You need to decide whether you want to take charge of your careers or not, right? No pressure from our end, absolutely. And it's you who needs to decide whether you want to take this chance, learn something new. And let me tell you something, absolutely no learning goes waste. Absolutely no learning goes waste, and it will come and help you at some point in time in your careers. Okay. And like I said, back when Asif and I started, we had absolutely no facility like this. So this is our way of giving it back to the community. This is our way of helping people upskill or right skilling, as you say. Asif and I are extremely passionate about this, and this is our passion project. Okay. And we will do everything that is possible to help you set up your FP&A career. Yeah, that's what we have to cover for today. Okay, and the courses and everything is details are available on the portal. We will share it after the session as well on the WhatsApp group as well as emails. So please go through it. Happy to take any questions that you might have on the must class, on what we have covered today, or any FP&A career question in general.
Yeah, I got
Also,
a couple of, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I have like two or three questions in my direct chat box. So we'll take those questions, and also feel free to put more questions if you have questions, and we can take them as well. What I wanted to share is, especially if you are preparing for FP&A roles and if you are going to appear for interviews, and you have seen that there are a lot of FP&A openings and FP&A is becoming uh, good. I mean, a lot of companies are hiring for FP&A. If you see that, especially in your region, in your country, in your city, then I think it will be, I mean, it should be a no-brainer for you to get into this and then be well prepared and be ready when those opportunities come. So, what happens typically when I wanted to move from audit to FP&A is I worked for 4 years in audit and then moved into FP&A. Is that I used to get interviews and I was not prepared. So I used to think whenever the interview will come, I will then prepare for it and then I'll crack the interview, which is not a very good strategy. So ideal strategy is you to be prepared, and whenever that interview will become coming, you should be ready for that interview, and that will increase your chances of getting into an FP&A role rather than waiting for the interviews to come and then preparing for it. You might eventually get there, but you might take more time or you might take years and years, which you can avoid. Uh, yeah, so that is what I wanted to add. We can take questions. What are there in the chat box over now?
Yeah. Okay, let me take one of them. How challenging would it be for someone coming from no finance background to get onboarded with FP&A? Um, well, FP&A is all about basic commercial understanding. Having said that, you may have to at times dive deep into the accounts to understand the variances or understand the reason for variances, right? So I would say if you have basic understanding of how a profit and loss account looks like, what is revenue, what is margins, um, how does a balance sheet look like, how does a profit and loss account, how does a profitability look like? If you have these basic understandings, that will be great. um, uh, that will be easier for you. It's not impossible, but some basic understanding would definitely be helpful. What else
I
are
can take
there?
the next one. I can take the next
Yes.
question. So, uh, uh, one of the person is asking that what is the total price for all the things that we shared. The total price for the FP&A masterclass and all the bonuses that we shared, along with lifetime access. So you will have access to this course whenever you need to refer 2 years from now, 5 years from now, whenever you need to refer in the future as well. So along with the FP&A masterclass, you get all the different bonuses that we shared, including foundation, resume preparation guide, interview preparation guide, uh, and the mastermind call, access to mastermind calls, and the monthly Q&A calls. All of that together is $297. Another question I get is for how long is this offer? So see this, we typically do one batch or one live session every 2 months. So the next session is happening on 22nd, starting on 22nd. Out of the 22 seats, already 16 seats have been taken. So we have like 4 or 5 seats available right now, which will get filled in the next 2 days. So, uh, I mean, it'll most likely close tomorrow by 5 o'clock. The enrollments usually we close it one day before at the end of the day. So 5 o'clock tomorrow will this will close. Somebody is also asking if I cannot join this one, can I join the next one? So the next one will happen sometime in August, which is 2 months from now. So batch 13 will most likely be in August 2024. Just in case if you want to join that, you can do that as well.
Okay, so Nisha has a question. Everyone asks for FP&A experience. How do we deal with this? So to be honest, what you need to do is start creating talking points on your resume about FP&A. Right? If you have done any kind of analysis, put that in the forefront of your resume. Right? That's what to some extent courses can also do. If you just start your profile or a headline by stating that you're a certified FP&A professional, having worked in the areas of XYZ, right? That can at least become a talking point. At least you will get that call for the interview. Then in the interview, how you're going to convince, that's a different matter. That's what you will have to practice. But at least there needs to be some talking point. There needs to be some keywords on your resume related to analysis, related to FP&A. Then only you will be able to get that call. Otherwise, internal promotions are the only option if they are giving you that exposure. And we have seen this happen many times. Like a lot of our alumni have come back, and they were able to transition to FP&A roles because they had that basic understanding of what a budget looks like. Because we make them do it as well, right? In the class, we make them do it. We show them how it is done. Okay.
We will wait. Yeah, we'll wait for a couple of more minutes if there are any questions that you need us to answer. If not, we will wrap up the session in the next maybe 2 minutes.
Rasha has a comment, says, this is so useful. I cannot believe how much FP&A I'm actually doing versus I thought my description of my role. See, that's true. And many times we have come across this comment where people are actually doing a lot of analysis. People are already doing some revenue analysis, some costing analysis, some analysis here and there, but they don't realize that they're actually in FP&A roles. So it's to some extent positioning of the analysis part that you do in your job. It's to some extent positioning this in the right way to upgrade yourself to an FP&A role. That's also important. And sometimes you may be doing only partial analysis. Let's say you are only doing expense or revenue analysis, but maybe in some other company you will do a full-blown P&L analysis. You will own a certain budget as well. That's possible. Everything will not come to you in one go, but there are stages which you can definitely leverage.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone. And if there are no questions, we can let you go and enjoy your rest of the Thursday.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of questions. Let me take them. One is for management commentaries or reporting. Can you share some references like a website or a playlist? See, there is no one set of commentaries that is applicable for everything, right? Every variance is individual. Every variance is unique. So you will have to dig deep and you'll have to correlate with the business reasoning as well. It's not just some under accrual, over accrual in the previous month. Those things are very common. So don't try to look for templates. Don't try to look for any standard commentaries. But rather build your own commentary. I would say understand the business, what's happening, and then build your own commentary. We would recommend you to do that. What is the success rate of this course? How many folks have been new to finance and FP&A gets placed from masterclass, and what are their initial package looks like? See, there's no one standard answer to this. To be honest, we have had students who came only to learn, came only for knowledge. We have had students who came for transitioning into FP&A roles, and some of them have been able to transition to FP&A roles as well. Right? What is the package? That's completely individual, depends on the company, industry, sector, geography that you are looking at. But all I can say is that FP&A roles are in demand. Okay, we have conducted a recent CFO survey, and the CFO survey suggests that 79% of the CFOs are struggling to find the right FP&A talent, which means there's no enough talent available out there. So whatever you do in FP&A today, whether it's a course, whether it's a certification, whether it's a workshop, and you put it on your resume, chances are that you will get that call, because we are in that phase right now. But there are not enough FP&A professionals available, but everybody wants finance professionals who have some analysis experience, right? But not all analysis experience can be got on your accounting job or can be got in your current role. That's what we kind of try to bridge this gap with our FP&A masterclass.
Right.
Do we get some certifications? Yes, we provide the completion certificate for FP&A masterclass. Okay, great. I think great session overall. Happy to have you all here, and be enthusiastic, keep learning, keep growing, and stay connected with us. Do send out a connection request on LinkedIn. If you have any questions about your career, feel free to reach out to us or me, and we'll be happy to help. Okay.
Thanks.
Good night, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.